Good evening and welcome to RTO Doctors 30 Days, 30 Tips second series, and welcome to our Friday night session on, it will be a very short one tonight actually. I'm feeling a little bit frustrated and it's probably going to be more a rant than a tip, but I will try to turn it into a tip for the purposes of the 30 days, 30 tips. Well, it is a tip. It's just me also getting frustrated with the industry sometimes and saying, you know what, when will people actually wake up and start doing their due diligence and actually paying attention to what they're investing their money into? And this comes about because this week I've read 5 audit reports in relation to rejections of initial and or CRICOS registration, and also cancellation notices, notices of intent to cancel registration, all from ASQA providers or prospective providers. Why am I frustrated? Because despite the many, many warnings that people get from people like myself, from the regulators, from everyone on LinkedIn, anyone who knows anything about the industry, we are constantly saying to people, please do your due diligence on any consultants that you are engaging to assist you with your RTO registration requirements. If you're submitting an application, if you're going through an internal audit in preparation for your registration audit, monitoring audit, compliance audit, whatever the audit is that is being conducted by the regulators, please do your due diligence. Now, the reason why I say this is because out of those audit reports, I had four providers or prospective providers who had all paid a substantial amount of money for unqualified and really unskilled consultants is all I can say. There was one consultant, in fact, who had taken over $20,000 to do an initial RTO registration for 2 qualifications. They didn't prepare any evidence whatsoever for the client, took the $20,000, submitted an online application on ASQA and effectively did a runner. The client attended the audit, had no evidence, and of course their application got rejected because they couldn't meet the standards. They tried contacting the said consultant. Of course, the said consultant has disappeared. And this is just an ongoing issue that I see time and time again. We see people who are all of a sudden popping up as a consultant. They've never worked as a consultant before. They think it's their saviour, and whatever the case may be, I don't know. I actually can't generalise and say that that's the case. But what I do know is that I get a substantial amount of audit reports and cancellation notices and sanction notices that come across my desk almost on a daily basis. All of them from people who have engaged consultants who have not got any idea what they're doing, and the cost to the client or the prospective client is so extreme and significant in many cases that they cannot afford the rectification evidence that is required for them to be able to submit and rid themselves of that particular non-compliance or sanction or whatever the case may be. So people have said to me today, well, okay, we've got this rejection of RTO registration. Is it better for us to go to the AAT, or is it better for us to just lodge another application? And the first thing that you need to remember is that whenever you lodge an application for initial RTO registration, there is a little question there that you're asked, and it goes something along the lines of, have you ever been cancelled or had registration rejected? That is one part to ASQA's naughty list. ASQA has been regularly and systematically collecting evidence on a whole range of different areas over the past few years since it came into power. Now, some of those names are to do with people that they know have potentially defrauded the government, whether it be state or Commonwealth government through the vet fee help system, or people who were somehow linked with those programs and the ACCC involvement in those cases. They've also got a list of consultants that they know are absolutely guaranteed to fail audit. So whenever they see a consultant's name associated with any training and assessment material, policies and procedures, they already know where to start looking for non-compliance, and they will pull you apart. They also have a naughty list of people who, for whatever reason, their registration has been cancelled or suspended, or they have received fines under the Act, and a whole range of other sanctions. People who have trainers and assessors who they've found critical non-compliance in other RTOs, their names go on the naughty list. This naughty list is just generated and maintained by ASQA, and it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. So when someone comes to me and says, do you think we should just submit a new application and get another consultant to help us? I sit there and I just wonder to myself, at what point are you actually going to learn that you can't just use the same old mistakes time and time again? And ASQA are going to keep seeing that you keep submitting these applications and they keep getting rejected, and you're just going to waste more and more money. Why don't you just do the job properly? And I guess I'm just at this point where I don't know how to change this in industry. And so my tip for people is, please just listen and do your due diligence and work out who you're using, whether or not they've got the runs on the board. I mean, you wouldn't jump on a plane if the pilot was only 50% competent and, you know, can he land the plane or can he take off? Which one can't he do? It's really got to the point where people are investing tens of thousands of dollars and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're actually putting their mortgages on the line and all sorts of things, but their investment decisions are just plain stupid. They're not consistent with the same level of investment that they're putting into their RTO, and they're just making stupid decisions. They're losing all that money. And then there comes the question where the person turns around and says, well, okay, my name might be on the naughty list, but what if I put the RTO in so-and-so's name instead, and I will just continue to work in the background? Well, I'm sorry, that is one of the most unethical things that I've ever heard. But apart from the fact that you have somewhat lied and been untrue in your declaration that you have to sign off on, you also would most likely continue to be an executive officer under the Act anyway. You'd still have to fill out the fit and proper person form, and you'd still have to tick that box that, yes, your registration has been cancelled or rejected in the past. So I think people just need to start being a bit more cautious about who they're engaging, and they need to understand that if they're going to engage people who don't know what they're doing, when they come asking for help, and that help comes at a cost, but we have the runs on the board, please don't ask us to engage in unethical behaviour or reduce our fees to satisfy your need to get registered when you should have come and used us in the first place. To go and use incompetent people on an ongoing basis and then punish the people who know what they're doing and who do have the runs on the board because you didn't do your due diligence is something that is really beginning to frustrate me, and I have no doubt it's frustrating regulators as well, which is why they're becoming harder and harder on new applicants for RTO and CRICOS registration. So the tip for tonight, please, please, please do your due diligence. You wouldn't go and invest in a new house just based on what so-and-so said. You would do some research about the area that you're looking at investing in. You would do some research into the agent that you're looking at working with, the broker that you're working with. You know, you would do your research. This is no different. Some people use an RTO as their livelihood, and if you're going to invest in your own livelihood and that of others, you have an obligation to yourself and your families to make sure that you're doing the correct due diligence, to make sure that the governance and the decision making that's involved in that process is comprehensive, well thought out and justified. You should never jeopardize your family's well-being and home based on poor decision making, because it's just not good business practice. It's not the right thing to do. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Tonight's 30 tips has been about ASQA's naughty list, purely through my own frustration of getting quite a few audit reports this week where it has got to that point because of the incompetence of a range of consulting staff from other companies. And I really do just hope that people take away from this message that it's time for people to start looking at the skills, qualification and experience of the consultants that they're starting to choose to do the jobs that they're doing. Thank you for following. Tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon rather, at 2 p.m. Western Standard Time around about, maybe not exactly on the dot, but we'll be talking with Bruno Cozzi from Blue Gem, who will be talking to us about the top 5 things that you need to look for in an RTO software system. So I look forward to you joining us for that session tomorrow. And I'll see you all then. Thanks. Bye for now.